Hello, everybody. We are back for Caravan of Garbage, the show where we go, all right, we'll do some MCU stuff, all right?
That's right, yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Bit of a somber start there, I thought. You were like, oh.
I didn't want it to be, Mason. Let's have an upbeat good time, you know?
Here we go!
That's what Caravan of Garbage is. Or people read the title and go, this is actually my favorite movie and you didn't get it. Maybe you didn't watch the video. Maybe you didn't get it.
Maybe you didn't get the movie when you watched it.
Wow!
Maybe you've watched this movie 100 times and you don't understand a single word of it.
Me?
Yeah, you!
Oh, no! I made so many notes!
It's just, James, that's just gibberish. I can see it right in front of you.
So we are, over the next 3 episodes, every Tuesday, going to be talking about the Iron Man Trilogy, Mason.
That's right.
Leave a like if you could.
The shoot to Trilogy.
Absolutely.
Remember they were trying to be like, oh, his theme song is always AC/DC songs.
Yeah.
They never got to Rock and Roll Train.
Nobody did.
No, nobody got to
Rock and Roll Train. So if you remember in the months and years leading up to this movie, it was a big deal for Marvel because they weren't doing well. They'd sold off a lot of their properties. And the headline was when they announced solo films for like Captain America, Ant-Man, Thor, Iron Man, it was Marvel rolls out their B team, you know?
Yeah, some real dregs, and it was like, you know, they're casting with unknowns and has-beens.
Hacks!
And a lot of people, like, I wonder in retrospect, I think this movie's aged really well.
Agreed.
I've seen some criticism of it, you know, in the recent past where people have said, oh, it's not that special, is it? But at the time...
Yeah. It's very unusual.
I mean, this was a turning point for Marvel. In 2008, they had produced some disasters. They had burned a lot of their existing properties.
Yep.
Like you said, all their hottest properties at the time, the X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four,
Ghost Rider,
Blade, like they had licensed them out for very cheap rates.
Yep.
Forever, essentially. They still haven't got a number of them back.
Yeah.
And again, this is the characters they had left to work with were kind of their C-list and D-list characters. And my favorite character as a kid was Iron Man. And so I faced a lot of questions like, is he a robot? What's his deal? What's going on there?
Explain this to me.
Yeah.
Explain it to me.
And I was like, I won't. You're going to have to wait for the movie with Tom Cruise in the 90s.
Well, that's the thing, because the rights to this eventually lapsed and went back to Marvel, but it bounced around multiple studios, Universal, Fox, New Line. Tom Cruise was on board at one point. Nick Cage was on board at one point. I got a question for you, though. If they made this movie now, and Robert Downey Jr. was the age now that he was then,
okay,
and had his past, you know, with drug abuse and all that, even though he'd come clean at this point, do you think Disney would hire him? Because they have a history of like not hiring people
because
like
of course
him.
This movie was made when Marvel were working with Paramount.
Yeah.
Disney hadn't acquired Marvel at this point.
And it was an independent production. It was Marvel owned entirely.
My answer is, I cannot know.
That's a good answer.
For I don't know the mysteries of Disney employing some sort of time-traveling Robert Downey Jr. who doesn't age and is still that age now. I just don't know. But I thought the question you were going to ask was, what do you think this movie would have looked like if it had been made in the 90s? And the answer was absolute crap.
Robot jocks.
It would look like robot. It would look like if anybody has seen the
robot jocks, robo jocks,
robot jocks, obviously, and then Robot Wars, the sequel. But it would look like if anybody has seen the old Captain America telly movies from back in the day, where he feigns being sick so he can hijack a car twice.
Yep.
And he wears a big sort of motorcycle crash helmet.
Yes.
That's what this character would look like.
100%.
And it just like enormously head heavy and ungainly.
Yeah. Best case scenario, it looks like steel.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
In many ways, that's also a worst case scenario.
Agreed. We've done a video on it, I think.
There it is.
So these are some other names that apparently they went to, though not all of these are confirmed. Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Yeah. Clive Owen. I don't hate that.
No, I don't hate it either, sure.
Timothy Olyphant, he's mentioned in a Conan interview that he screen tested the same day as Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, pretty good. Timothy Olyphant.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is perfect, but that's a great choice.
Yeah,
Timothy Olyphant, yeah.
Sometimes we hear these lists of casting options and we're like, what, why?
How dare you?
Must have a great agent. You know, that sort of stuff.
Right,
but these are all good.
The thing is as well, It's great casting. It's perfect timing for Marvel, for Robert Downey Jr. They had the freedom to cast him because it was outside of a regular studio system. He was an absolute roll of the dice, if you don't mind the pun, Mason.
Yeah.
And here will be the footage of when he rolls the dice. Ben will put it in.
As I understand it, he isn't the cast member who was paid the most for this movie.
No, that was Terrence Howard.
Famously, the first man to be hired for the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And also the first man not to be rehired for the next sequel.
First in, first out, mate.
That's right.
We'll talk.
It's a real FIFO worker, this guy.
We'll talk about that more next week on the recast. But going back to this, and look, I didn't really need to because I've seen it multiple times. It does feel kind of quaint because a lot of this has been replicated since. The template was set, and then we see it in an Ant-Man or a Captain Marvel. Like, we see it in these origin movies,
It is a fairly standard system. You get yourself a flawed hero, and then they get into a spot of hot water, and then they gain the powers, and then they learn a valuable lesson about life.
And then somebody shows up who has their powers.
And then a blue sky beam shoots into the air, and that's the end of the movie. That's every movie we've ever seen. Every movie. I shan't see another movie that isn't like that. But this was kind of, the first one, and it works because I think it's not about the sky beams. Or the suit, really.
Yes.
Although the suit is awesome and wouldn't have worked in the 90s. It's because the characters and the performances are really good.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think it's also because they hired somebody like Jon Favreau, and of course Kevin Feige was also working on this from the get-go. He'd already been a producer in more of a minor role on a number of like Fox X-Men properties and a bunch of other stuff. So he'd learnt a lot of lessons from seeing what you should or shouldn't do with the characters.
He'd soaked up a bunch of superhero movie magic into his baseball cap.
Yep.
And then he slapped it on one more time and he's like, here we go.
Here we go. But I think Jon Favreau and the idea that he had to come into this and make it a bit loosey-goosey, there's the famous Jeff Bridges quote, which is...
There was no... Oh, wait. We had no script, man.
Yeah, so they had like this rough outline, but they'd kind of improv the scenes beforehand to kind of get a feel for them and then kind of roll with it in the moment. The dialogue feels very natural, and I think...
Hey, take one slice of pizza. You can have 2 slices of pizza.
Exactly.
Magic like that.
Magic like that, but I think now that's a formula that they may have locked into too much.
Right.
To be like I think they've managed to bottle it since in a number of films and scenarios.
And formalize it and lock it down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's this formula that they kind of not accidentally stumbled upon, but kind of crafted and went, this is it. We're just doing, everyone has a quip and a joke and they'll light up your smoke. You know what I mean?
That's right. They're still in the Navy, except for Terrence Howard. He got fired. It's interesting because in the 1960s, Marvel were famous for writing their comics with the Marvel method, which is where the writer would have some sort of loose outline of the plot and then the artist was just allowed to sort of run rampant and draw whatever they want. And it's kind of similar to how this movie was put together.
Agree.
They're like, okay, he's got to start here and end here, but in the meantime, say whatever you want, baby.
Yeah, that's it.
Tony Stark can have how many slices of pizza he wants.
2.
He has to, yeah.
Now that's locked into the Marvel formula.
Everybody's got to take 2 slices of pizza.
So there's one moment, I watched a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff, but where Jon Favreau, it confirms to me that he was the right choice for this movie. Because I think he's a great director. And they're doing the sound design for the film. And it's the scene when he first lands in the war-torn country, whatever it is. I can't remember. I guess I haven't seen it that many times.
That's correct.
And the first time
It's Gulmira.
Thank you.
In Afghanistan.
The first time his repulsors kind of crank up, there's a thundercrack noise that Jon Favreau says that they should put underneath it that then is not utilized later in the movie when he uses it. So it's kind of like the first time he fires it up, it's like, holy shit. And then the impact is literally lessened every time since then. So that's for the audience. So continuity-wise, it doesn't make any sense that they're louder then than later. But that scene just always blew me away. The superhero landing for one.
And then he kills all those men.
He kills all those men, yeah.
Like a superhero would.
Well, that's what he's like, isn't he? But I remember even the trailer, when I first saw this, and the moment where it really was solidified for me that, like, I'm definitely seeing this as soon as I can, is where he sonic booms past the camera at the very end.
The suit hits the speed of sound and we get the sonic boom. And I'm like, that's attention to detail.
Exactly. And I think also there's so many little things in this movie that make a huge difference. They focused a lot on getting the flying right, and a lot of it is practical. But they wanted to make it kind of like Spider-Man's web swinging, where when he's learning to fly, but he ain't got wings, to quote another famous Billy Joel song,
It's Tom Petty. I will not let that one stand.
No, I know that, but I was making a joke. But then...
No, you weren't. You were serious and you didn't know.
But a lot of this movie is dedicated to him learning to fly because he ain't got wings.
I like the Billy Joel song.
The Billy Joel song. But it's interesting, you know? Mm-hmm. Because you see in a lot of superhero movies that's like, oh, look, Mr. Fantastic is learning to stretch. Who cares?
He ain't got wings.
He ain't got wings.
It's true. I mean, there are a few moments that upon multiple rewatches, you do start to ask some questions. For example, when he flings himself directly into the wall of his garage, why doesn't his face cave in? Remember that? Speaking of caves, remember the bit where he and Yinsen are building the suit?
Yeah.
They're supposed to be building a missile, but then it cuts to like surveillance footage of them, and they're clearly just building a leg.
Yeah.
Just building a leg. Like, what excuse were they going to give if the terrorists busted in? They'd be like, you know the expression kick butt? Well, that's what this missile does. Goes down and kicks butt. That's what this is. We're building a Wii Fit. Please don't kill us.
I want to talk about the suit, though. This is actually Stan Winston's last film, but as he talks about in the behind the scenes, he's like, I don't make anything anymore. I just come in and go, pretty good.
Great,
and then I go home, but he doesn't need to at that point.
No,
he's a legend.
Yeah. He's hiring the best.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this Iron Man suit, all variations on it, is you can technically fit a person inside all of it.
Less so with later movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they make multiple versions for this. The stuntman, or one of the stuntmen, Mike Justice...
Nice.
Like the Billy Joel song. The big suit that he's in with all the flamethrowers.
The Mark 1, yeah.
Yeah, the Mark 1. That's all practical. And when he initially put it on, he could only do like an hour or so in it because it's just this bag of metal that you're sewn into. And then by the end, he got so fit that he could do it for like 12 hours. But there's things like that which I think make a huge difference where on set they had the actual set of armor, suits of armor, all of them, and then often they'd replace them with CGI, but they still look great because they had that frame of reference there to get the reflections and the detail. I knew one of the reasons they knew they could make this movie was off the back of Transformers, because metal is something in CGI which you can do very realistically, like more so than human skin.
I see, right.
Also, interestingly enough, at the very end of the movie, Robert Downey Jr. is not wearing the suit anymore when he's battling Obadiah Stane.
Yep.
He's just like, I just want to eat pasta. I don't care if I'm bloated. I don't want to wear this fucking suit. And I think that then carried over into the rest of the movies where he doesn't really... He might maybe wear the chest piece.
Yeah, right,
Because at the start you see him, he's like, oh my God, I love this suit. How cool is this to be Iron Man or whatever? And then by the end, he's just like, I hate this so much and I'm never doing it again.
Yeah.
Also, I only got paid $500,000 and that will not stand from here on out.
From this point forward, I want everything from the box office, all the money.
Yeah. Here's a question for you though.
Go on.
What are some things that you think stayed from this movie? Some things that were locked into the formula.
Oh, okay.
We talked about like the tone, you know what I mean? And
quips and quips.
That's
right.
The post-credits, obviously.
Yeah. What else?
Sequel bait? Or do you think a lot of that was throwing stuff against the wall? Like having Coulson, whose part, by the way, was expanded because they're like, he's got pretty good chemistry, let's put more of him in it.
I think his bloody suit was expanded as well. You see how big that suit is on him? Looks way better in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're like, he's a recurring character now. We'll give him some suits that fit.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon, though?
I mean, I think the number one thing, and quips is a very kind of diminutive way to put it, but I think it's the idea of we're not taking this all that seriously. Like maybe the world's going to end, but we are having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I can fly.
And it's kind of like that nod and the wink at the audience as if like, because again, this like prior to this, who saw superhero movies? Nerds. But I mean, who's seeing these movies now? Billions of dollars of tickets worth, and it's because somebody might, go into one of these movies and look at a character and go, that character's costume looks really dumb, and then a character on screen will go, hey, your costume looks really dumb.
Green Lantern.
Yeah, and they'll go, well, I guess we're all on the same page. I guess I will watch this movie. It's just and it's good for dismantling criticism as well. Well, how did he go from there to Gulmira in the span of... Doesn't matter. We're just being silly.
He's
being a bit silly.
He was just being silly.
We're all just being a bit silly, all right?
Yeah. Here's some things, though, that I think might be lost along the way. These used to be...
Terrence Howard, yes.
R.I.P. Metaphorically. Mm-hmm. So these were originally shot on film. They were all shot on film.
That's true. The first three are shot on film, I think. First three Marvel movies, rather.
I think a lot of the practical stuff has has gone out the window also.
Definitely, yeah.
But I think also a lot of the green screen and CGI is so good now that it doesn't matter as much now as I think it still matters, but it mattered more then than it does now.
I think if the budgets hadn't kept up with the popularity of these films, if they were still making, $80 million movies, doing it on digital and all CGI maybe would not look as good, but they're putting 200 million plus into these movies. So.
Exactly. Yeah. There's even moments where they're in the desert and those helicopters fly in to rescue Tony Stark. That's real. And there was also like a real sandstorm when, they recover his armor and they're going to recreate it. And they were just like, there's a sandstorm and we're just going to shoot this anyway.
Sure, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I quite like. But even the flamethrowers, they're real for the most part. I know there's one moment, you told me this, where the Mark I suit goes down on his knees and then stands up. That's not real, is that right? Because the suit can't.
Oh, it can't bend at the knee, perhaps. Maybe so.
I think you told me that.
I said a lot of things in my youth that were lies.
Yeah, sure.
But maybe,
yeah.
Sure.
But the character of Iron Man himself, this is something I only kind of realize now going back to it. It's like he considers himself already dead. Like for a lot of these movies, and I think even up to Endgame in a lot of ways, he knows he's on borrowed time.
Sure, yeah.
Like he's poisoned in one of the movies, you know what I mean? He's got
yeah.
massive PTSD. I think only when he starts a family and he wants to build something, he's like, this is now something I want to hold on to. But I think he knows that he was never supposed to get this far.
Oh, do you think perhaps it was all a dream in the mind of a man who got blown up in Afghanistan?
Perhaps it was.
I think it was.
I'm sure that's a theory.
I think it's safer to assume that.
Yeah.
And we should ask that of Kevin Feige every time we see it.
It's true, yeah.
So was this all a dream, Kevin? Kevin, answer my letters, Kevin.
Anyways, my point is he was supposed to die because he sucks, like as a man. He's not a good person.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Here's something, I was going to call it trivia, but I'm going to call it little things. Little things
I've got a couple of little things.
Let's do some little things.
I've written here, a lot of Obadiah Stane's menace evaporates when you remember the bit where he rides a Segway.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was so 2008, wasn't it?
The little 2008.
Yeah.
What do you got? What's the little bit you've got there?
The Mandarin was supposed to wear the suit originally of the Ironmonger or something in that style. And he was going to be, in an early draft, an Indonesian terrorist. But Jon Favreau was worried about how you would handle a character like the Mandarin. The Ironmonger was then supposed to become the villain in the second movie. But then they were like, the Mandarin's a weird character to balance.
From a white guy like me.
Which I guess is why they haven't touched it in over a decade properly.
Sure.
I mean, they did like the Guy Pearce thing, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But, they're like, are we really going to roll this guy with a Fu Manchu mustache?
And he's got alien dragon rings that are magic, but also technology or something?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
What about this? An early draft of the script revealed Tony Stark to be the creator of Dr. Otto Octavius's tentacles from Spider-Man. Avi Arad, famous Spider-Man ruiner and producer, was a producer on this. He was quickly kind of shuffled aside.
Away, okay.
But Iron Man just creating villains all day, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Iron Man...
Even in universes he doesn't exist in, he's creating villains.
That's right. Iron Man also the creator of, and here's something that this movie's been out since 2008.
Yep.
Never been able to figure it out. At one point, Stark does say that Stark Industries is responsible for the life-saving technology of Intellicromps.
What?
Intellicromps.
Has it got an MCU wiki?
No, it's not. I couldn't find it. He's having that interview with the reporter, and he's like, "We save lives with our Intellicromps."
It sounds like he misspoke.
Maybe it does, and I mean, maybe he just threw it out there, expecting the reporter to not have an answer or to not look it up.
Yeah.
But I'm based on the name. My assumption is it's some sort of Wi-Fi enabled crumpet. Because, sometimes you put a crumpet in a toaster, you put it down, it comes up, it hasn't been done enough. You put it back in, comes up, it's burnt.
Yeah.
But you're connected to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Always perfect. Peace in the Middle East. That's all I'm saying.
I think it might be a specifically British invention, but then it all went under because of Brexit or whatever.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah.
They couldn't get the parts.
That's
the whole
right.
company folded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thanks, Boris. The likes of Mark Millar, Joe Quesada, Brian Michael Bendis, they were commissioned, and you see them in the behind-the-scenes thing at a roundtable being like, Iron Man is this and whatever. So a lot of famous comic book artists.
That's not specific enough, if you ask me.
Just
no wonder they didn't get the
cut me
gig.
the check.
Yeah.
I just think that's really, that's something they they don't often do. Get
That's
actual
true.
comic book creators.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany, who now famously plays the Vision, recalled all of his lines as Jarvis in 2 hours. He said it was like performing a robbery. So in a way it is.
Yeah. Joke's on you now, Bettany. 8 hours of makeup a day.
Well, now it's just like they paint his face like one color, isn't it? Then CGI the rest.
Well, that's even more embarrassing.
I agree. Peter Billingsley.
Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Yes.
Is one of the scientists that Obadiah Stane yells at.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Because he can't build a tiny little arc reactor.
And then he comes back in.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
That's right, exactly. Here's something which is fascinating. If this film didn't succeed, Marvel would have lost the intellectual property rights to their library. I actually made a video on this. It's called something like Marvel's Biggest Gamble, where they just went, we're just going to go all in.
Yeah, I mean, but in a lot of ways, it is kind of a sweetheart deal. Because if you made a huge budget Iron Man movie and it sucked really bad...
I would never. I'd make a good one.
Who is going to take another gamble on it? You know what I mean?
I mean, you get everything else, though.
Yeah.
You get the company. They probably make silk boxer shorts.
Sure. That's my favorite hero. That was my favorite Marvel hero from as a kid. Silk boxer shorts. Okay, I just have one more thing. This is from the start of the movie.
Okay.
Before we cut to the flashback, I've written here, I would also get my phone out in the middle of a firefight. Tweet about it or whatever, you know what I mean?
Tweet about it or whatever.
Yeah, get an Instagram live. Can you believe this, I'd say? Might get you in on the call. You could be like, I can't believe this.
Just watch you get shot there.
Yep. So many hug reacts.
So one thing I do want to talk about for this, which I think is fascinating, is the box office performance.
Please.
Because this was the 8th highest grossing movie of 2008. These are the movies that came before it. The Dark Knight at number 1, Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Kung Fu Panda, Hancock, Mamma Mia, Madagascar, Escape to Africa, Quantum of Solace. And I think what people forget from this is that if you're trying to build a cinematic universe, your first one isn't necessarily going to be a Pirates of the Caribbean 1, the biggest movie of the year, if that movie even is that.
That's right.
I think studios now, they're going for a big swing, expecting they're going to make $1 billion up front.
And then it makes $800 million and they're like, forget it. We're cancelling this and we're waiting 2 years and we're doing it again in the Dark Universe.
Exactly. But then, like, the first Marvel movie to make $1 billion, I think it was Avengers.
Yeah.
You know? Which was 4 years after this.
And ultimately, the only people that learned from this and were successful at it were the MCU, obviously, and the Mamma Mia franchise.
Yes, that's
and here
right.
we go again.
Anyways, all I'm saying is that everybody who worked on this movie in hindsight should get $10 million. Disney should just give them $10 million.
And anybody who watched it, $10 million.
Even more so.
Per viewing. I watched it twice for this.
Did ya?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Hello everybody, we're back for another Caravan of Garbage, continuing our flight through the Iron Man trilogy, Mason.
Continuing.
Is that what I said?
Yep.
I stand by what I say and do and everything else that's ever happened that I will do.
That's how you become a success.
That's right.
That was Tony Stark's maiden speech for his company. He's like, I'm going to be continuing work of my father. He's going to be very proud of me.
That's right.
That's how you become a billionaire.
And if people could continuing to leave a like on this video, that would be terrific.
We'd love it, yes.
Because that certainly helps get this video off the ground. Speaking of Mason,
Yes.
Tony Stark, he's back. He's hot off his appearance in The Incredible Hulk. The
Oh, that's
post-credits
right.
cameo.
Yeah.
He's put on his big tall man shoes for his scenes with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So in the past...
That was the first thing you were going to say?
Honestly, the first thing I was going to say, because in the past I've given Iron Man 2 a bad rap.
Sure.
When I think back on it and I go, oh, Iron Man 2, what a disappointment. And I think there's only really 3 things that I have an issue with in this movie. Right? Number 1 is that Tony Stark builds a new element by looking at his dad's old theme park. Like he's looking at a magic eye and then he discovers a new element in it, which is fascinating
His
to
dad
me.
his dad left it there for him. It doesn't work.
And he also does it in a way that, like, you know, when you watch an episode of CSI and it's just like test tubes spinning and it's like, but there's no actual, like nothing is really happening. He's just turning a laser onto another thing, kind of thing, you know.
To be fair though, he puts more effort into this than he does figuring out time travel.
Well, that's true. Time travel, he just knocks it out on a napkin on the way over. Yeah, it sort of makes me wonder what would happen if, like, Howard Stark was building this secret into his theme park for his son, but like one of the popcorn vendors decided not to book in, and he's like, "Oh, I'm missing a guy. Oh, do I run the popcorn stand? I'll set my own one up." Oh, okay, so that's that. That's number one.
Sure.
Number one issue with this movie. Number two issue with this movie. It's predominantly about Tony Stark. Maybe he's going to be in the Avengers, and it's all filler for his future involvement in the Avengers. And at the end, he's just not in the Avengers. But in the Avengers, at the start of the Avengers, he's just in the Avengers. But that's not really Jon Favreau's fault. That's more Whedon's fault for not turning that around somehow.
Well, that, and also there was a lot of heavy Marvel involvement in this.
Yeah.
Like Jon Favreau, he's a pretty jovial guy. Like, he'll shut his mouth about, being in a situation like this.
Yes.
But apparently there was a lot of behind the scenes friction between him and the Marvel higher ups. We'll talk about some recasting that's going on. There were some people at Marvel who are no longer there. And this really leans into the, like, we're building a universe here.
Yes.
In a way that the first one didn't, you know? What was your third thing?
My third thing is Tony Stark's huge bell-bottom trousers. Just in every scene, every full body shot of him, he's got these big flared pantaloons. It's obviously because he's not as tall as the character is supposed to be, and they've put lifts in his shoes, and the way to counteract that is you have these big boot cut.
Yeah.
These boot cut jeans.
There's a moment where he's replacing a painting on a wall or whatever, and he's standing up on a bench. You see him. They're right there.
And look, these days there would be like a role in the crew, and it'd be like visual effects tailoring, and they would just cut it down in post.
Sure, yeah.
But back then, they only had a mere $100 million or whatever it was, so it's just like,
that's right.
But other than that, still,
it's fine.
Holds up.
Like you, it's better than I remember it being. And what it got me thinking about also was there's a lot of changes to Marvel characters, especially early on, which I think people were more okay with because they weren't as popular. For example, they changed Jarvis into a virtual assistant AI situation. But that was mostly because they didn't want to do a Bruce Wayne Alfred comparison.
Same year as Batman Begins, right?
Exactly.
The first one, so.
Oh, no, Dark Knight.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
A Batman movie.
A Batman movie, sure.
Which one? Who's to say? We don't know.
They were continuing the saga of the Dark Knight.
They were.
It's all a blur.
And the other thing is, he's more of a jokester. Do you know what I mean? Where in the comics, he's pretty straight and narrow. I mean, he's a drunk, but he's like straight and narrow, right?
Sure,
in terms of personality. And also the identity thing, which was apparently an improv, that changed the course of this entire saga, because a lot of people just don't have identities. There are exceptions, like Spider-Man, but they just completely threw that out the window. And I don't know whether if they did that now, people would be as open to it. If you did this with a character like Batman in his first movie, or even any of the movies where he just did a press conference and went, I'm Batman.
And the police are all in the audience. They're like, well, he's rich, so I guess we have to let him get away with this.
We'd stop him, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He knows Krav Maga, I think. I mean, Batman nearly does come out at a press conference in The Dark Knight and say that he's Batman, but it doesn't happen. But yeah, do you think they've leaned more away from that? Where do you think the MCU is now in terms of
I think the
changes?
MCU probably influenced the Marvel comic book universe in
Yeah.
that extent, because obviously in the comic books originally, Tony Stark, Iron Man was his bodyguard, but they've gotten rid of that since then. The whole world knows Tony Stark is Iron Man in the comics now. So I think they've probably leaned heavily into that. Obviously, Nick Fury, as we've mentioned in previous Caravans of Garbage, it was originally a white guy.
Yes.
And he has since been replaced by his son, who is a black guy, and
it works perfectly.
It works perfectly. Don't even think about it.
His name is also Nick Fury.
Nick Fury Jr. They don't bring up the Junior very often.
I do want to talk about the Nick Fury thing, because there's been talk that we based on Samuel L. Jackson, and the idea was that we were going to get him in, and this was kind of our way to let him know what was going on, and our people talk to his people. They just did it. There's interviews with Samuel L. Jackson. I found one recently where he's like, I picked up a comic and I was in the comic.
Yeah.
I don't remember giving anybody permission to use my image in a comic book. And then all of a sudden I read it and go, if they made a movie about this, who would you want to play you? He goes, Samuel L. Jackson. I go, okay.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Apparently, there were a lot of contractual problems at the time, Mason.
I bet. I mean, there's an issue of the Ultimate Comics where Nick Fury is asked who would play him in a movie, and
he says David Hasselhoff.
That's right. The character looking exactly like Samuel L. Jackson says, well, Samuel L. Jackson, of course.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that did come true.
Yeah.
But I believe the artist on that comic book at the time was quite fond of, photo reference, we'll say.
Sure.
And that's
Tracing,
yes. Speaking of casting, this movie has a cavalcade of fun guest stars.
Oh my God, so many. Let's do it.
Olivia Munn is in this,
Yes.
who later became Psylocke in the X-Men movies.
Correct.
Kate Mara, who gave the best performance anyone's ever given in a Fantastic Four movie.
Best wig in a movie.
Best wig in a movie.
In some of the scenes.
The great DJ AM, no longer with us, the late DJ AM.
R.I.P.
The late, great Gary Shandling, one of the best in the business, brings in a great performance as this sort of
I agree.
smarmy, just had it up to here senator, who later turns out to be a Hydra agent.
I actually think, and I was watching some behind-the-scenes stuff that speaks to this, that they were already thinking about the Hydra twist.
Interesting.
Because they're kind of like, there's some stuff coming up with whatever, and I'm like, well, it's only 4 years out at this point, so that's not entirely possible that they would have planned some of that out.
That's true.
But Gary Shandling,
and Bill O'Reilly, still alive somehow.
Still,
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is. Well, speaking of terrible people.
Go on.
Elon Musk makes an appearance.
Sure does, that's true. Did I say cavalcade of stars or not?
Yeah.
Tony, I'm thinking about making an electric jet. He's actually just thinking about? It's just a regular jet. It's got an electric fence on it so poor people can't get in. That's what it is.
You know what I think? I think that's how he actually comes up with his ideas. They're like, he's a great inventor. He came in and said, electric jet! And then he ran out of the room. Sure. And then we just had to build an electric jet. Mm-hmm. Anyway, look into it. He's not great, is he?
Real life Tony Stark, in my opinion. Just a real...
dog of a bloke.
Yep.
Again, we know there's some big fans of him out there. Just look into it a bit. Just look into it just a little bit. Just look into him a little bit.
Just come on.
He's a hero.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
What do you think about the fact that they sort of did the Demon in a Bottle storyline, sort of,
For that one scene.
Well, to be fair, the original opening, when we see Tony Stark for this, and there's a deleted scene you can find, he's drunk, throwing up in a toilet, and then he jumps out of the plane, and Pepper Potts is there, and she's like, what are you doing? You're drunk. And he's like, I love being drunk. I'm Tony Stark.
Is he drunk, but he's also palladium
he's
drunk,
both.
right? Yeah.
He's palladium poisoned and drunk. Day drunk, night drunk.
Could any one of us say that if we were being constantly palladium poisoned, we wouldn't be drunk all the time?
I'd be doing it all day, mate.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Speaking of, though, we have a service called Big Sandwich where we have a book club where we actually recently did Demon in a Bottle, where we talk thoroughly and extensively about that story arc. So you want
a Tony Stark. He's got a big perm. He's got a mustache. He's zipping about on his Iron Man roller skates. We got you covered. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. So he's met his match this time around by a big muscular HGH infused Russian man. With very exposed chest and arms. Oh, most of his chest.
And head.
Constantly.
mostly the head.
Well, that's what gets him in the end, isn't it? The exposed head. I just think, though, he's not a great villain. I think Mickey Rourke was huge at the time because Sin City, because of The Wrestler. I mean, he is a great actor. And apparently he brought a lot to this role, and he had a lot of his own ideas in terms of the looks. Boyd's, different Boyds.
I want my bird.
The bird was his idea, for real. Like, the tattoos were all him, and the Russian accent and the phrases that he wanted to use. But
Boyd?
Yeah, Boyd. The Boyd, yeah.
I want my bird.
Yeah, but apparently, though, a lot of that was cut. So I feel like just going, it's fine and whatever. But, what was it supposed to be? I don't know, but this isn't great, is it? Is it really? But here's something that is great.
Yes.
And I'll stand by this scene until the day that I die, until one of Elon Musk's weird fans comes and finds me and shoots me.
Until you are dragged onto a shuttle and put into one of Elon Musk's space mines.
Yeah, that's right. The racetrack scene is one of the best scenes in the MCU ever, hands down, without question.
And it's a great action sequence, and it looks great because I think this is one of the few Marvel films filmed on film.
Yes,
looks great, colors great.
FOF. That's what we say.
That's right.
That's what we say. FOF.
Filmed on film.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
It just looks great. The slow-mo action, Whiplash just slicing those Formula One cars in half.
And you see like that's got the red outline where it's like just seared through it.
That being said, there is a moment where he flips Tony Stark's car, and it flips upside down numerous times, and then a bunch of cars crash directly behind Whiplash. And I'm like, this would be an entirely different movie and cinematic universe if both of them had just been absolutely obliterated on that racetrack, which could very easily have happened.
Yeah.
Like, Whiplash flips over the car, and Tony Stark's head has been separated from his body, and he's like, did it. And then just a bunch of, like, Formula One.
Just pile on top of him.
Yeah.
He is very casually strolling up and down that racetrack, isn't he? But that being said, the moment that just really sold it for me, and it was in the trailer, is the suitcase armor, which is a nod to the fact that his armor is
used to be in a briefcase sometimes.
And the way it unfolds around him, and it's like clickety-clacking over his limbs. And I also love the fact that it's this emergency suit that has some of the Iron Man abilities, but not enough a lot of the time.
Evidently, yeah.
But that's also, that suit for me, that's the best looking Iron Man suit in my opinion. That Silver Centurion look. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's my favorite suit by
again,
far.
I think, and maybe this is one of the reasons again, maybe let's add a fourth reason after the big Tony Stark booties, that they put this in the trailer. And again, it's the calculation they have to make of, do we leave some surprises in this film? Do we put something exciting in the trailer to draw people in? And I think they made the wrong call on that. Yeah. Imagine if you've not seen any trailers and you're watching this movie, you see Happy walking around with that little briefcase and you're like, what's in the briefcase? Because it looks, could it be? I mean, they wouldn't put it through. That's silly because it's in the comics. They put it.
Is it just like a bunch of martini mixes?
Maybe it's martini mixes. Maybe when Whiplash, he'll be like, quickly throw me the briefcase. I need a martini before I'm beheaded by that laser whip. But then it's the suit. You'd be like, oh my god! But the fact that they just had to throw that in, the entire activation sequence, put it in the trailer, and that's the reason it looks so good is why they had to do that, and it just. That's reason number 4.
It's a great reason. What I also like about this suit, and I think it also speaks to literally every other suit that he has, something happens to it, which he then upgrades in the next one, right? So in this, he gets whipped and electrocuted, and it just drops him. And then the follow-up suit in the Avengers, it absorbs electricity. So every time something happens to him, there's almost always the next one is something better. For example, in Infinity War, he makes shields out of like the nanotechnology in the suit and it wears it down.
But in Endgame, it's a laser shield.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's always something he's improving on.
So in the next one...
just a big block. He just can't get at it.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a ball, but it just kept rolling.
Wow. It's just got a bunch of cold steaks in it to put on his severe burns.
Yeah. But about that fight, though, on the racetrack, because we're still on it, why not? First of all, it was supposed to be a bunch of minor villains initially, like your Crimson Dynamos and whatever.
Elon Musk.
And Elon Musk, yeah. But I love how his instinct is to just build a whip suit just to make him bleed a little bit and then go, you lose. He didn't lose. Like, he won. And everybody knows that he kind of doesn't know what he's doing.
I see, right.
And there's aliens coming. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? This interaction.
No, but Whiplash wants the headlines afterwards to say, Iron Man half-asses it again. He gets through on the skin of his teeth like a real dummy yet again.
What about this line, Mason?
Go on.
Who do you attribute this to? I'm here. It's me. Deal with it.
Oh, that's Rhodey.
That's Rhodey. New Rhodey.
New Rhodey.
So I've got a bit of trivia here in regards to this recasting.
Go on.
If you don't mind. So Entertainment Weekly claimed that director Jon Favreau had not been happy with Howard's performance in Iron Man, often reshooting or cutting his scenes. So when it was time for the sequel, Favreau and co-writer Justin Theroux, surprise everybody.
Is that a surprise?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, cool.
Purposely reduced Howard's screen time, which led to Marvel to ask him for a pay cut of 80%. Howard refused, claiming that the reason for the pay cut was to meet Robert Downey Jr.'s reported 2,000% salary increase, apparently around $10 million. Cheadle was sought as a replacement. But do you remember our old friend Ike Perlmutter? We talked We talked about him when we talked about the Inhumans. Here's that picture. It makes that ominous noise, remember, for some reason?
I don't like it.
It's not an edit. It makes this noise. Ben, he can't fix it. He's tried all manner of editing tricks.
You ever walk past like a newsstand and it's making a weird ominous humming noise? Mike Perlmutter's in the paper, baby.
So Perlmutter allegedly told a Disney consumer products executive that no one would notice because black people look the same. So also the Hollywood Reporter reported in 2015 that he attended the premiere of Iron Man in disguise to go undetected because he's really weird about being in public and being seen. And once complained that journalists at a press junket were allowed 2 sodas instead of 1. He's a billionaire, just by the way. He's a billionaire.
Sure.
I'm just saying. Anyways, I think the War Machine role being beefed up in this is interesting. It's an interesting counterpoint. He's also got military tactics. You know, at the end when they're working together, he's like, I'll go up here and you go down there. And Tony Stark's just like, we'll just back to back this shit, whatever. I got that laser that works once. I'll just do that.
Sure.
We'll just shoot our repulsors together and blast this guy, turn him into a soup, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems okay.
So-
Maybe they should have put that in the trailer.
You know what's
though.
more than okay? Sam Rockwell as Justin Howard.
Yeah.
What a dream. What a
The
dream.
best.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't speak Russian!
Great addition. I love his little gun montage.
Yep,
He's making his little speech.
Uh-huh.
I wish I had more to say. I mean, he improvs that dance, that little dance that he does.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think he does more with less.
Yeah.
Tony Stark needs dancing girls in the Iron Man suit and fireworks and whatever. He's just out there dancing to the average white band, you know?
That's true. Bring him back.
Yeah.
You know, also they should bring
Here's the thing. The one issue I do have, like,
the 5th issue. You mean?
okay, the 5th issue is, I think it'd be better if he was more competent.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
He's meant to be this kind of dark rival of Tony Stark. He's meant to be a guy who, if Tony Stark hadn't grown a conscience, would be that this is what he'd turn into. But he's just kind of like a real blowhard. He's not that competent, you know?
Because I guess you could keep him funny and charismatic, and you could keep the little dance.
Yeah, yeah.
But also maybe he knows kung fu.
The dance would have evil intent.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
right. Here's someone that they should have kept,
on.
they did. Black Widow is introduced in this movie, but it's fine, and they don't really do anything with it. Scarlett Johansson has talked about how it was like, you know, at the time it was great, but looking back, it's like, was it? You know what I mean?
It's starting to get a plungier neckline, but it goes plungier later, so it's like a step in between.
I get it. Good. Looks great.
Good.
And I think, like, her fight scene is pretty solid, but maybe the cameo should have just been Hawkeye-sized, like in Thor. You know what I mean? I think it's just an extra thing that they put in here that you just don't really need for that character right now, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Anyway.
Greatest hair in her oeuvre.
I've
though,
heard
I
you
think.
say that before.
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree.
I think it's her best hair.
We'll think about it.
We'll continue to think about it. We'll agree to disagree.
What do you think about the inclusion of John Slattery, though?
Love Jon Slattery. Love
Would you
him.
kiss him? Would you kiss him?
Yeah, probably.
He's going to kiss him, everyone! He's going to kiss him. Here's something I don't like.
Go on.
I don't like his triangle arc reactor. I don't think it's a...
Well, that's why I got tossed for the Avengers. Sure. What was it going to be though? It's got to be. How else do you?
Octagonal.
Okay, right. I was going to say how else do you illustrate a new element? He's mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. He's become as unto a god. He's created a new element. You're not going to make it a triangle? You ignoramus.
I'm an idiot, aren't I?
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
You remember Albert Einstein said you make a fundamental new element? Make it a triangle. That's what he said. Big triangles are more important than knowledge.
Is that
Albert
true?
Einstein, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guy knew a lot of things,
Agreed.
including how to cheat on his wife. It's neither here nor there. Listen, Mason. Samuel L. Jackson made a 9-picture deal for this. Did you know?
I did know that,
And then he very quickly just ran through
ran right through them. What's he on? He's on like picture all of them, I think.
Yeah, he's
been
past
put in,
it.
He's been put in movies that aren't even Marvel movies at this point.
It's true. I think, though, the Nick Fury subplot, again, doesn't really work because it's just kind of, it does feel tacked on and get ready for the Avengers. And he just really spends the entire time negging Tony Stark, doesn't he?
Yep.
Just like, we thought about putting you in the Avengers and Iron Man could be in the Avengers, but you can't be in the Avengers. We don't like you, but we like Iron Man. You're not as good as Iron Man. Okay, thanks for being in this movie, man. Really cool.
Now, it's important we've been following you every step of the way here, but here's our evaluation of you. I need you to read it out loud. And he opens it up and Scott, what, absolute muppet? That's hardly fair.
It's time for Little Things, Mason. The segment of the show where we just go, here's something for nothing. That's what we say.
We sure do.
According to Jon Favreau, the Asian man who hands Vanko the false papers in Russia in order to get to Monaco is a member of the Ten Rings, the terrorist organization Stark encountered in the first film. The organization is reported it's Iron Man's nemesis. He's the Mandarin. That's the boss.
Big Ten Rings revelation.
That's right. No, Little Things. Another little thing. Tom Holland is in this, sort of.
Allegedly, supposedly.
Yeah.
We've retconned that in. He's the little boy. He's wearing the Iron Man mask as the Stark Expo is being attacked by the Hammer drones. And Iron Man saves him and he
That's
says,
right.
good job, kid. That's Peter Parker, apparently.
That's right, apparently. We got to mention the Captain...
But that's only because people kept saying, hey, Jon Favreau is that.
I think Tom Holland did. He was like, oh, Mr. Feige, please, can I be an Iron Man 2? It's my favourite movie. Mr. Feige, please.
Please, sir.
You don't even have to pay me for the next movie.
Kevin Feige confirmed it.
Actual canon?
Well, then it's confirmed.
He's 25. He's not a little boy.
No, that's true.
So what do you think about the Captain America shield?
Fine, yep, good fun reference, good, love it.
Apparently the
What is that, though? Because it's not the original Captain America shield.
Well,
clearly.
apparently the nod is to the fact that Howard Stark was linked to the Super Soldier program. So that was the idea, that we'd make that connection, and we have right now. Also, there's other nods. There's a Project Pegasus crate, which is also referenced in Captain Marvel.
Oh.
Because her powers come from a thing that exploded in her face or whatever.
The magical Pegasus, the legendary mythical beast, sure.
That's right. And there's also...
That was in that spaceship or whatever.
Yeah.
They were hauling the Pegasus.
Oh, really?
The mythical beast.
Is it okay? Oh, exploded.
Exploded real hard.
Well, at least you got all the powers of a Pegasus.
Agreed.
There's also a Black Panther reference because in one scene there's a map in the background and it's like, something going on in Africa? What is it? Black Panther. That's what's going on there.
Oh.
Here's something for you, Mason. In the original ending, Whiplash is revealed to have survived the explosion. This is from IMDb, little bits. And attacks Tony and Pepper before being killed by Rhodey. The ending was changed to a more ambiguous situation in case Marvel wanted to bring back Whiplash for future movies. As of June 2021, there are no plans to do so. He exploded, right?
Fairly unambiguous to me.
He was a soup. They would have opened up that suit and he would have poured out of it.
So he would have gone down the drain.
I got one more thing to ask you, though.
Go on.
Minigun, Mason.
Oh,
Mason's famous segment,
the
Minigun Minute.
Minigun Minute. I mean, it's the real thing. It's the real deal. It's the M134.
Yep.
That's the one they mount on a helicopter, or they mount on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Looking pretty good, blowing up some cars. But again, it's an impossible yardstick I have, which is just give a scene where a bunch of people are being chopped into soup. Like you said, that's what I want to see. But I'm going to give this 1 Minigun Minute out of my segment, 1 Minigun Minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it made the segment.
Yeah, but obviously not the highest rating.
Yeah. And neither was this movie, Mason. And I'll tell you why.
Why's that?
Again, it was the 7th highest grossing film of the year that it came out. So similarly to Iron Man 1, it wasn't a huge box office draw. It was made for somewhere between $170 and $200 million. So a much bigger budget than the first. And it made more. It's $623 million. But again, what I like about what they've done with the MCU, they didn't go, oh, it didn't make $1 billion. Pack it in. You know what I mean? You got to build to make it $1 billion.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about more $1 billion next week. But speaking of next movies, I really always liked the post-credit scene for this. It's the Thor's hammer situation, simply for the potential of we're getting aliens and space and magic and stuff.
Yeah.
And there'd been no hints towards that. We'd seen a man who drank a green liquid and he became a big green man. That's his origin. And then we saw a man who was drunk and then he fell into the desert, into a suit or whatever.
Sure.
That was his origin.
Yeah,
and now we're doing space hammer people.
Is that how you think Hulk's origin went?
Yeah, he drank a big green drink.
Sure.
It was too big. It's all water weight.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, no, you're right. I was misremembering. You're right, absolutely right.
Anyway, there you go.
I loved it. You know what I also loved? I loved how weird Coulson was in this movie.
Do you like how his suits fit better?
Better. Much better. But I like the little back and forth he had with Stark towards the end. He's like, I'm going to go. I was busy doing stuff. Now I've got to do other stuff. Like just two very odd, suspicious men having an odd conversation.
It's true.
And he's like, we need you, Stark, but not that much. Anyway, I'll see you later. I've got to go off and do 7 seasons of my own show, so.
I have to beat up people in that mini mart?
Yes.
Was that's that one, right?
Yeah. It is.
On the way to Thor's hammer or whatever it is?
Yeah.
There you go. Welcome back to Caravan of Garbage, the show where we go, this is the last Iron Man movie for now.
Oh.
We say that every episode, don't we?
We always say this is the last Iron Man movie for now.
Yeah, that's right. Leave a like if you could, because maybe you're happy it's the last Iron Man movie. Opinions are divided on this movie. I hadn't seen it since 2013 when it came out. I did not like it very much. But how did you feel going back to it?
I think my opinion has softened on it a bit. I did not care for it at the time for reasons we'll almost certainly get into.
Certainly?
What if we don't, though? But I appreciate what it was going for now more.
Agreed.
And there are plenty of elements to enjoy. I like the director Shane Black. He's teaming up with Robert Downey Jr. again after Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You remember that movie?
I remember that movie.
Great movie. And I'm like, that's a good choice. Shane Black's the Lethal Weapon guy. They were like, he's definitely going to do a Predator movie at some point.
Yeah, and everyone was excited for that.
We should get him in for an Iron Man movie before that shoots him to fame and stardom, and we can't afford him anymore.
Exactly. Jon Favreau is out.
As director.
But he said he still got to have fun because, he could do more silly, happy stuff in this movie, which I agree. More happy in these movies is good. I enjoy that character. But I
mean the character, but also the very concept of it.
I love
More
it.
happy in movies, please.
More happy movie. So the official reason is because he turned down this movie to direct The Magic Kingdom.
What is that?
Well, essentially, it's described as Night at the Museum, but Disneyland. Okay. So imagine, everybody comes to life and Jack Sparrow's like, oh, what are you doing in the Epcot Center?
Sure.
Jon Favreau.
Quite frankly, what's anybody doing in the Epcot Center?
But I do wonder whether, because of his experience on Iron Man 2, and they kind of pushed back on a lot of his ideas and it kind of got mushed into this kind of odd duck of a movie.
Yeah.
That's
You're
why
describing a lot of stuff as odd ducks recently.
It's just a new thing that I'm doing. I think I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
You happy with it?
Yeah.
So it starts in the year 1999. I enjoy Pulp Fiction happy. I also enjoy that Pulp Fiction came out 5 years prior to him having that hair.
And he's still desperately clinging on. I love that, yeah.
Shout out to our boys over at Eiffel 65.
Yep.
And of course we get a Yinsen cameo.
Yeah.
Which is, he mentions in the first Iron Man where they met, and we see that.
Yeah.
It's not much.
It really isn't, no.
Yeah. But I do like that idea that, he's talking about in the narration. As he's talking to Bruce Banner, it turns out that, we create our own demons. And he does that. And he also creates other people's demons, but, that is the character.
And he probably owns a liquor company as well.
Do you think he owns the Krusty Demons?
He almost certainly owns the Krusty Demons, sure.
Terrific.
They've got stark repulsor technology in their dirt bikes. They're flinging themselves into
Just
orbit.
shoot out of the stadium. But he's so mean.
He's awful.
We don't see this side of him that much.
No,
You know what I mean?
But there's a scene later on in this movie where he has a heart-to-heart with Rebecca Hall's character.
Yeah.
And he's like, you've got to change because the person I'm with, Pepper, she's got a conscience and you don't. You're just some sort of ghoul. And it's like, you were a ghoul 3 years ago. You're the worst. You're the worst person.
You left Cillian Murphy on the roof and now he's back. He's a dragon man.
And the arms dealing. Also.
And the arms dilly too, yeah, obviously.
But you did leave that guy on the roof. What I like about Aldrich Killian is he is the reverse Tony Stark that I think Justin Hammer should have been in Iron Man 2.
Fair,
because he's brilliant and charismatic and etc. And he's what Iron Man would have become if he hadn't, become Iron Man.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a fair point. So this is very loosely based off Extremis or Extremis, as it's sometimes known.
The Iron Man limited series, upon which the original, the movie Iron Man suit is based. The Eddie Granov artwork.
Exactly.
It very heavily influenced the MCU Iron Man style.
It's a beautiful suit.
Isn't it though?
It's a beautiful comic.
Yeah.
It looks great. But look, I didn't really want to ask you about that. I wanted to ask about how do you feel about his beard connecting to his sideburns like he's some kind of Smash Mouth lead singer. How do you feel about that new look that he only has in this movie?
And never again, yeah. Some might say that as an actor who is maybe getting on in some years, that was maybe
like a jawline thing?
Added for an illusion of jawline. But no,
okay.
maybe he's just, I think the actual reason is probably just to distinguish him from 1999.
Okay, yeah.
Add a little something.
A little bit of flavour.
Yeah.
So
flavor savers all around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's been some changes in terms of the Marvel movies, but the Iron Man movies also specifically. This is the first Marvel movie to be shot on digital. And I think you notice that in moments. You know what I mean?
And you can hear a subtle bleep bloop under every frame.
And that's the computer.
That's the computer.
That's the computer filming this.
That's right, yes.
I understand. There's also no S.H.I.E.L.D. or Nick Fury as well, which the other one's kind of leaned into. And also, interestingly, prior to this, Disney had bought all of the Marvel stuff for $4 billion, which, by the way, amazing deal.
Yeah.
Incredible. But the distribution rights to this and the Avengers, they went through Disney this time, and this movie is the last one to have the Paramount logo out the front.
Yeah. And it doesn't say Marvel Studios, it just says Marvel, interestingly.
I think it's pronounced Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have we been saying it wrong this whole time?
I think you have, I haven't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the things I didn't like about this movie wasn't so much the Mandarin, it was the Guy Pearce reveal of the Mandarin. But a lot of people didn't like the reveal that Ben Kingsley was the fake Mandarin. But I like that twist. How do you feel about that?
Well, great question, James.
Thanks.
Just as a little bit of background, apparently Guy Pearce suggested that
that he shouts that he's the Mandarin?
Yeah, and that he suggested the twist.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point in the production schedule that was implemented, but I mean, great.
Yeah, I just don't think he needed to shout, "I am the Mandarin," and it was always me or whatever. I think because, we are getting the Mandarin, and also that's hinted at in the one shot that comes after this with Benjamin Kingsley. But I love the dual roles that Ben Kingsley is playing. Like this soccer hooligan drug addict, and then like he's doing the voice and he's like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, as a longtime Iron Man fan, I think I was definitely put off at the time by the idea that, we're finally going to get a look at Iron Man's, one of his true arch nemesis, but then it turns out it's just some drunken idiot.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I feel like, but at the same time, I sort of understand that they're trying to cap off a trilogy here.
Sure.
We'd foreshadowed the 10 rings in the past. I guess you have to pay that off. And even at this point, I think probably the idea of a man with, magical alien technology rings who's a modern-day Genghis Khan warlord.
Yeah.
We do that for real. That's going to look too silly, I guess.
Sure.
But I was kind of put out. But again, as you mentioned, there is a Marvel one-shot called All Hail the King in which it is revealed that the real Mandarin is alive and annoyed at Ben Kingsley, and who wouldn't be?
And maybe Ben Kingsley meets Scoot McNairy if he's in that.
Maybe
or a
he
guy
does.
that looks like Scoot McNairy.
But then obviously we're getting Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, so we are going to see the Mandarin for real. So, all's well that ends well, I guess, kind of, probably.
It seems like all the behind-the-scenes stuff I read about these Iron Man movies are, we didn't really want to touch the Mandarin, because it's like, it's kind of... it's a difficult thing to touch upon, and it seems like the idea of working him into like that kung fu movie is probably, we haven't seen it, but
in the Marvel production offices, there's like a flow chart, and it's like, do we want to introduce aliens, magic, kung fu, etc.? And then if it's like no, then it just goes, just have a guy fight a guy that's the same as him with the same powers.
Exactly.
He's like the Hulk, but he's
So, funnily enough, initially, Ben Kingsley was supposed to explode. He was going to take the extremist drug and then explode, but they obviously kept him alive for that one shot at the very least.
Yeah.
But I don't hate the idea that these explosions that are going off around the place,
the extremist soldiers are overheating and
overexerting themselves and exploding, and they're covering it up with, these Mandarin terrorist attacks. I think that's like a pretty solid idea, but just the end when he's just like, I'm the Mandarin, and he's got like the dragon tattoos. It's just like, I don't know, thank you.
Another solid idea that I think this movie has, and I enjoyed again for the most part, is you take Iron Man out of the Iron Man armor.
Yes.
What is he after that?
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I'm sure a lot of people went into this being like, well, it's Iron Man. We put him in the suit, and it's going to be Iron Man in the suit for most of this, and it's not, and I can understand how people would get mad about that. But I like the idea of you take this guy out of the suit.
Yeah.
Because if you take him out of the suit and he's useless, what's even the point of him?
What's the point?
Right?
Frankly.
Yeah.
Just a man with a pretty weird beard.
Yeah. But the execution of that, I think, I mean, the main complaint I think about that I have about this movie, more so than the fake Mandarin and etc., is that you put him on this path of a man with limited resources and no Iron Man suits to back him up. You put him on that path by just having him make the dumbest choice anyone's ever made up until this point in a Marvel movie. You say, hey, the Mandarin, here's my address, come and get me, and then not prepare at all for that?
Yeah, have the worst suit.
Just have the worst one ready to go.
That can't fly yet, either. Yeah, well, Ben, who edits these, he put it down to that he has PTSD and he's not thinking clearly.
Okay.
And I think that often comes across in this movie. But then it gets to like the end where he's like, all right, I'll call all my Iron Man suits. But it's like, you've been stuck in the wilderness, small town USA, and you haven't thought to do this prior? He's like, I don't have an Iron Man suit. I've got to turn a glue gun into a whatever.
A slightly bigger glue gun.
Yeah, but it's like, you didn't think?
And I mean, I know he's not thinking clearly because he has that PTSD that he has to get over in 2 hours.
Yeah.
But, who is thinking clearly? Jarvis.
Yes.
The person who runs his house and probably would be like, well, if you invited the Mandarin over, I might set up some, all of your Iron Man suits around the mansion maybe. I don't know.
Nah, don't.
Well, you're the boss.
Because it really is that moment with Harley, who I like, by the way, and they just kind of drop him in later movies. They're like,
Harley being the Iron Man kid.
Yeah, but they're just like, nah, Spider-Man's the new Iron Man kid. But he's like, why don't you build something? Get over your PTSD. And he's like, oh yeah, all right, I will. But the idea that like he went into space and he saw like the other side of the galaxy, it's just completely fucked his brain up. That's really interesting.
I agree.
But I don't think it completely pays off. Here's some stuff that I think does pay off.
Go on.
That fight scene where he calls his suit and it's coming piece by piece and he has to take out that room of goons and he's just got like the arm and the boot.
Yep.
I think that's really good.
Now, I mean, it is good, again, to show that he is a hero even without the suits. I would like to point out that the distance between Tennessee and Miami, the flight time,
you figured
it's
out.
about an hour and 20 minutes. And from the Iron Man suit escaping the barn in Tennessee to getting to him is 57 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So pretty fast.
I agree.
I mean, who's to say when that came out of the barn?
Happened
maybe
earlier,
maybe it came out of the barn an hour and 19 minutes ago. I don't know.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that makes this movie terrible.
I agree.
By all logistical standards.
Ding.
That's right. What do you think about Iron Patriot? Because in the comics, that's a Norman Osborn situation. Yeah.
I
like Rhodey and Tony together.
I
think
do as
they're
well.
a fun pair, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it kind of completely comes together.
One of my favorite parts of this movie is where Iron Patriot has been captured and Killian is heating up the suit with his heaty hot hands, and then it's just Don Cheadle springing out of the suit wearing like his green polo shirt, just doing some kicks. Just straight into it.
He comes out with a big punch.
Hell yeah. Just like he got sewn into the suit like on the beach. And he's just springing out and he's like, I'm ready to
He was probably playing golf with the president.
Yeah, right, maybe, yeah. I'm ready to fight and do the back nine. Here we go.
Yeah. I also like that air stunt, a lot of which they did for real. They got professional skydivers to have to hide parachutes in clothing, and they got them all to link up, and then they dropped them in the water at the end with wires. And I also like the fact that he's not Superman. So he can't just grab one, take him to the ground, grab the next one.
He's not fast enough, and the laws of physics don't allow for it.
Yeah, he'll be tearing people's limbs off.
So I mean, I find that really interesting, and I think that's a great creative use of the Iron Man suit and the technology, but also, and that's really smart.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time in this movie, Tony Stark is kind of a dumb guy who doesn't learn from his mistakes.
Yeah.
Like he's fighting one of the extremist guys up in the plane, and he notices that as soon as the guy touches him, the suit powers down and it starts melting him and what have you.
Yeah.
And then he kills the guy, and then later on, when in the final fight, he's just sending in suit after suit.
Yeah.
It's just getting shut down and melted by these guys, and you know those suits have like missiles and lasers and stuff on them, right?
Iron Man, more like Grapple Man. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Stop grappling. You're grappling so much.
Yeah.
You learn some Wing Chun, like we know.
We get it.
You don't need to prove it.
Yeah.
You're just getting your suits melted.
You know what? Maybe you could become giant space laser man.
Yeah.
Just shooting a giant space laser. I think that would work just as well.
I agree.
I see a suit of armor around the world.
Here's something I do like in this movie that it sounds like I don't like that much.
Go on.
But I like a lot of it, is that the suits that show up at the end and there's that big battle over the docks or whatever, it's pretty cool. And we get to see lots of different varieties, and he's leaping suit to suit. And even though it's like, why are they grappling? Just have them shoot lasers.
I kind of wish at the end all the suits would have been manned by people from the movies.
Oh.
Like when I saw the trailer for this,
Happy.
I thought like the
Yinsen's corpse.
I thought the Igor would have Happy in it because it's the big one
That
kind of
makes
thing.
sense, yeah.
All his ex-girlfriends are in the suits,
God, just hating it.
Just hating
be
it.
like, I'll do it, but like...
come on, Yeah, Yinsen, the Iron Man kid.
Yeah, what's her name? The reporter, whatever?
Yeah, Leslie Bibb's character,
Exactly.
whatever her name is. Because that's the thing in the comics, the Iron Legion. It's basically all his mates,
Yeah. And, I do like, how Pepper gets a bit more play in this and gets a bit of an action scene. But there's a moment where she dies, or he thinks she dies, and he's just kind of like, oh no! Oh well.
Anyway.
And I know he's
Here
in
we
the
go.
moment and he's fighting a dragon, man. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could have kind of maybe sat with that a little bit longer. Or like his rage is kind of like blocking his ability to think clearly.
But then, of course, Killian falls prey to Iron Man's ultimate weapon, a knife. Just a knife. Should use that all the time, I think. That big knife.
I'd have a
Just
knife.
a big knife in the suit. Just knifing limbs off left and right.
Yeah. I also don't like how he's just like, Killian's just exploded. They're pretty sure he just exploded, even though he'd already exploded.
Yeah.
And he's just like, let's just blow all these suits up. Don't do that. Also, like, they break up the next time, or one of the next times we see him in the movie, because I guess he he just started building them again.
Yeah.
But then they get back together. It doesn't really matter at all. But I mean, it's a Christmas movie. It ends in like a Christmas fireworks display, I guess. But it's just kind of it rings a little bit hollow to me. As does,
Go on.
and I'm sure you've heard this, that in China, there were some scenes added to appeal to the Chinese market. So you know how he gets his heart repaired by a Chinese surgeon? There's some other scenes that were shot specifically for there.
Just Chinese sightseeing.
That's right, exactly. Wow, this is a great wall. Well, this is a terracotta warrior.
Wow, this shopping district is better than anything I could ever build.
Exactly.
My Iron Man suits are garbage compared to this McDonald's in China.
Here's a segment of the show called Little Bits or whatever we called it.
Yep.
Little moments.
Little
Just things
moments.
that's worth mentioning. Bruce Banner's in it. I have to mention it. But specifically, I want to mention him because there's rumors of another post-credit scene which was supposed to be included that involved the deep space armor. So it was going to end with Tony receiving a distress call from outer space, at which point he dons the space armor and flies off to meet the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Whoa.
Apparently this was scrapped because they weren't sure if he was coming back. Because
see.
at that point, this was pre-Civil War, and I know Ike Perlmutter, who I do want to talk about again, was going to be somewhat involved. And, you know, there were pay disputes, and they're like, we're not paying Robert Downey Jr. this much money to co-lead Civil War. Which they made the right call.
He's gonna want 2 serves of ice cream.
Yeah.
And we will not be having that. And and in the comic books they did do a storyline where the Guardians of the Galaxy join up with Iron Man in space. And so
and
you
he
know.
teams up with he has a relationship with Gamora at one point as well.
A relationship.
A relationship. That's right. A special shout out to the Star Trek double punch that he does to his suit when he attacks Pepper. Big fan. Loved you in A Christmas Story. Says to the little boy.
Little boy, yeah.
Peter Billingsley, of course.
Producer of these movies.
He's in Iron Man.
And he's in Iron Man 1, yeah.
You get it. People know. There's little Shane Black kind of dialogue stuff that I really enjoy in this. The moment where he kills all the goons, you know, when he's been captured. And he's just like, this is so weird. This isn't worth it. And the moment where he's getting attacked in the town and he ducks behind the car and he's like, it's crazy, huh? And the guy goes, yep. You know what I mean?
It is crazy.
Just little things like that. Special shout out to Adam Pally as well. He's got the Tony Stark beard and whatever is in the thing and whatever. Here's something else. Anthony Mackie apparently auditioned for the Mandarin. They say it's the Ben Kingsley role, but that doesn't seem right to me. It feels like he would have been more of an Aldrich Killian type. But what do I know about anything? Not a damn thing.
Nothing. We've never heard him do a posh or soccer hooligan British accent. So
that's right. Now, here's something also I definitely wanted to mention, and I've been holding off until now.
Uh-oh.
And also because she's not really much of a character in this movie, I guess. But Rebecca Hall, who's great, was initially supposed to be the main villain, right? Was going to be behind everything.
Maya Hansen.
Yes, which if you've read the comic, which this is very, very loosely based off, she does play a bigger role, and Cillian Murphy, and no, the other guy.
Aldrich Killian. Yes.
Is like a minor scientist.
Aldrich Killian in the Extremist comic book is in like 1 page.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But here we go. Ike Perlmutter. Here's the picture. We know it makes the noise. We're sorry.
We can't help it.
We don't know why.
You burn it. You burn the picture, and then you just open a drawer in your house, and it's there again. I don't understand. I don't like it.
So Ike Perlmutter said having her as the main villain, it wouldn't sell toys. So, yeah, you know, he's always been on about stuff like that.
They sell a lot of Aldrich Killian toys?
They sold 1 million day one, Mason.
with a little barbecue lighter in them? It's weird that he only uses the fire breath once. You'd think he'd use it again.
I'd use it every day.
Yes.
All day.
Right?
I'd clear lines at the bank with it.
Yeah.
Just make my way to the front.
Yeah. I'd build a pizza oven and light it impressively at a barbecue.
Oh, you're one of those those pizza oven guys, right?
Yeah.
Come round, I'll make the best pizza. No. Nobody wants to come around and have your weird pizzas. You don't know how to make pizza. You just got a pizza oven. Stop doing it, Mason.
You are going to get fire-breathed next time I see you.
Yeah, Rebecca Hall in an interview more recently was like, yeah, I had a bigger part where I was a main villain or whatever, but I don't really remember. It kind of sucks like that happened. And I think, yeah, she would have been good. Also, fun fact, Rebecca Hall was 17 in 1999. Just saying. I mean, obviously not 17 in the movie, but just saying.
All right.
I like to talk box office as well, Mason.
You love it.
Because every week we've been like, why don't these make $1 billion yet? This one did. $200 million budget, which was boosted after the success of the Avengers, and it made $1.2 billion at the box office, which was a little bit below the Avengers themselves.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. So this was really the point in time where these were solidified as they're mostly billion-dollar movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Anything lower than that, failure.
Don't even
Abject
bother.
failure.
Boo. Boo and hiss.
This I guess, sort of denotes the point at which movie studios are like, if anything makes it less than $1 billion, we are not continuing the saga.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dark Universe.
Dark Universe.
Yeah. But, there's been a lot of talk of, will the Iron Man saga continue, you know? And we are getting the Ironheart series. Armor Wars is coming out, where it's just Rhodey cleaning up more of Tony Stark's mess, essentially. But I feel like, and I don't know whether you will agree with me, that he will be back. I know he said that he's not going to. He could be like an AI hologram situation.
I absolutely want give us an old school Iron Man suit.
Yep.
Like a clunky one with a big blue hologram head.
Agreed.
Yeah.
They've done it in the comics. I just feel like maybe not in the next 10 years.
Yeah, sure.
But I just think it's going to happen.
He can film it at his house.
You can film it at my house.
Yeah.
I've got a spare room.
You're not filming it at my house. I don't have room after I put the pizza oven in. So,
but all in all, it's a bit of a mixed bag of a trilogy, but the stuff from the first one is kind of strong enough to sustain the rest of it. Not that there aren't good ideas along the way, because there definitely are.
Yeah.
But I think I enjoy the character of Iron Man like maybe more than I enjoy some of his movies. You know what I mean?
Sure, I get it. Yeah.
Well,
But I think
that
the character of Iron Man is just it's not a great bloke. But I think
that's also the point.
Yeah. I think there's enough good stuff in these sequels that they're worth a rewatch.
10 out of 10?
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
We're starting rating them. It's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10
We're
out of 10.
gonna do that every
we'll
week.
Yeah, that's right.
If we forget to rate them every week,
10 out of 10.
It's an automatic 10 out of 10. So don't even worry about it.
Because we love the magic of cinema.
That's right.
That's why, no matter what.
Guess what though?
What?
You might be like, I love these videos. Thank you. And you're welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
You're welcome. But every week though, they actually go up early at bigsandwich.co, which is like our Patreon tier that we control in its entirety. But
That's
along
right.
with
not shady.
No, not shady.
Totally
No, it's real.
legit.
It's legit. But along with that, we do movie commentaries. We've done the first Iron Man and dozens, if not thousands of others.
That's right.
Bonus podcasts, and also our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out a day early there on Sunday, Monday at the regular time. If you do want to check it out, thank you for watching. Thank you to Ben and Lawrence for the edit. And let's all think about... Let's have some introspection. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that'll be good, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Grab that gem, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.